Good afternoon. Today I'm going to be talking about the memoir that I read, Born a Crime by Trevor Noah. It was a really awesome book. I gotta say, I read it cover to cover in pretty much a week, and it was like the first book that I read. Didn't really feel like a chore. It felt more like, just having fun on the off time that I do some reading, right? So it became less of a chore and more of a fun book. I've always been a huge fan of Trevor Noah, so when it was time to pick a book, I knew exactly which book to pick up. So I've been following his comedy since I was young. He talks a lot about his stories, but never to the extent of the book. So it's really cool to kind of see his past all come together through stories and through language. And, from being born a criminal to one of the world's most rising stars. It's actually crazy. Throughout reading the book, I made a note of the main themes, which are resilience, race, religion, self belonging, and his overall personal growth from, child to man, and in such a terrible time. And it's kind of funny to say, but the first time I really got into the book was at the very beginning. It's from the passage thrown out of a bus. This chapter talks about how Noah and his mother had to jump out of a moving bus to save themselves from being killed by a Zulu man. From this point on, the book took a, rather dark turn. The way that Trevor writes his books, you can really see yourself going through those situations and you feel rather uncomfortable, but then all of a sudden he cracks a joke, which in my opinion is it's something really beautiful how he can take something so dark and turn it into something funny almost, right? My favorite passage was after they jumped out of the bus, he was kind of getting mad at his mom, and he says, "Look, Mom, I know you love Jesus, but maybe next week you could ask him to meet us at our house." The next few points I want to talk about are from chapters 3 to chapter 4. I find that these chapters are really important to the main storyline. It talks a lot about Trevor's family life, which is obviously something that's very important. His mother is a Tosa woman, and his father is Swiss German. And, his father's estranged. He doesn't know his father. And he was raised in a female-led household. But on top of that, he has his one male role model, his grandfather, who's also bipolar. And he shares some stories about how his grandfather at 80 years old was trying to fight him at age 12 in a boxing match, right? So it was very sort of interesting to see how the whole dynamic of being a very female-led household to a very violent male role model, but not like strictly violent, more funny, like more jokingly and more friendly violent, very play fighting, if you will. But chapter 4 is really interesting because it's when the whole aspect of his race comes into play. I feel like it's really important to think about when it comes to having, in the eyes of the white people, he is black, in the eyes of the government, he's mixed, in the eyes of his family, he's white, which is definitely something really complicated for someone growing up to think. And as a mixed person myself, I kind of do see that aspect sometimes play in my life, right? So, in the government's eyes, if they found out that he was mixed and his father was white and his mother was black, they would take him away and put him in an orphanage. But there was a quote that I was really fascinated with because it happens when he was playing doctor and he accidentally punctured his cousin's eardrum, and his grandfather beat all the cousins except for Trevor because he didn't know how to beat a white man. And the quote was how easy it was for white people to get comfortable in a system that awards them all the perks, right? So I find that's interesting because, the white side of him is seeing benefits, the black side of him is being completely thrown away and treated like garbage in this apartheid, and he's being raised in a city that was literally built to be bombed in case of a riot or a rebellion. So that's, really interesting point when it comes to race and self-identity, because Trevor is very confused, and as anyone would be, right? Again, I could talk for hours about this book, but I know that the cap is 10 minutes, even with the stretch. The last point I want to sort of talk about is how the story really comes full circle. Uh, Basically, Trevor's mom remarries an abusive man called Abel, who shoots her in the face. And, it comes rather full circle when it comes to the emergency room. It comes kind of, it ties into the fact when they were younger in chapter 1 when they had to jump off the bus. Um, the quotes go, "But I thought you were dead. I kept bawling and bawling. I thought I'd lost you. No, baby, don't cry. Trevor, Trevor, listen to me, listen." "What?" I said with tears coming down my face. "My child, you must look on the bright side." "What? What are you talking about, the bright side?" "Mom, you were shot in the face. There is no bright side." "Of course there is. Now you're officially the best looking person in the family." She broke out a huge smile and tears. I started laughing too. I was bawling my eyes out and laughing hysterically at the same time. We sat there and she squeezed my hand and we cracked each other up as we always did, mother and son laughing together through the pain in an intensive care recovery room. So I feel like that kind of ties into the first part of the story when Trevor made a joke that cracked up his mother in the gas station after they were thrown off of a bus, to being in the emergency room after another tragic accident, to having them see the best of times. And I really feel like that's a lot of the moral of the story, is having the best of times, taking the worst of times and turning them into something beautiful and something great. The one thing I really didn't talk about was religion throughout the whole video assignment that I'm doing. And it is something that comes to play a lot in the book. And, when it comes to the first church, second church, third church that he went to as a child, and throughout the book, how religion played a huge role within his household, from when, there was the shit in the garbage bin. Every point throughout had a really funny point on religion. And I feel like it was the whole undertone of the whole book is about how God will see us through things. And the final quote in the book actually is, "Jesus is your health insurance. If God is with me, who can be against me?" "Okay, Mom. Trevor, I prayed. I told you I prayed. I don't pray for nothing. I said, for once I cannot argue with you. The gun, the bullets, I can't explain any of it, so I'll give you that much." Then I couldn't resist teasing her with one little jab. "But where was your Jesus to pay your hospital bill, I know for a fact he didn't pay that." She smiled, and she said, "You're right, he didn't. But he blessed me with a son that could." I just feel like that's a really beautiful ending. And the whole fact about the hospital bill being more than just the hospital bill, throughout the book, you see this amazingly resilient, strong woman raising a single son who's mixed in the middle of apartheid, right? Which is insane. And on top of that, she is, happy and religious and being very good. And she never really got a good life. But in the end, she was blessed with the son that did. Now Trevor Noah is hosting The Daily Show. He is one of the most rising stars in America. He's making cameos in movies like Black Panther. He is doing comedy shows all around the world. It's truly, truly amazing. So I feel like religion was a really undertone and understated point throughout the entire book. But at the end, everything comes full circle when it comes to the accident and the religion, the blessing. So that's it. That's my video essay about Trevor Noah, Born a Crime. I really enjoyed this book, and I could talk about it for hours. I wish we were doing a Harkness on it because I would crush it. Anyway, hope you enjoyed. Have a good day.